Tragically, I lost my son Ben to a fentanyl overdose. It was the hardest thing I had ever had to endure. It's happening across Canada. Fentanyl is wiping out an entire generation of our people. So we started a foundation, Guardians of Recovery, to help people with mental health and addictions who are struggling and not included in society. We've done a great job of including people with disabilities in our society. Now imagine a world where people with mental health and addictions have that same level of inclusion. That's what we're about to do. We are inviting you to take part in one of the most progressive and creative initiatives of our time, building sober living homes for our people to make sure they are cared for and have an opportunity to completely come off substance and live normal, productive lives. Hi, everyone. It's Tina Olivero here once again with Guardians of Recovery. Welcome to my good friend, Janet Dermody, who's here to have a chat with us again tonight. A super, super exciting conversation. I don't know if exciting, controversial conversation is more like it, about whether or not taxpayers' money should be used for alcohol and drugs for people who are struggling with mental health and addictions. That's a conversation that has many, many viewpoints. Tonight, we're going to dive into that conversation. We look forward to having your comments, your thoughts, your input. So welcome, Janet. Can't wait to get back at this with you.
Yes. Hi. Thanks for having me, Tina. So yeah, it's quite the controversial subject because it's tax dollars, which is always a controversial subject. But then we talk about tax dollars paying for narcotics and then now alcohol for alcoholics. It's like, Is this really happening?
Well, at first thought, you think, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that we're actually buying alcohol for people with, an alcohol problem.
Mhm.
But as I started to do my research, I was looking at, what people were saying, why they thought this was a good idea. And, some of the people had the biggest hearts in the world and thought, they were like going way back to when it first started. In my research, I saw people who noticed that alcoholics were dying on the street, freezing to death at night. So rather than leave them out there, they would have them come inside and they would allow them to bring their alcohol inside. That's how it sort of started. And then it was like they noticed instead of having breakfast in the morning or whatever, they would leave right away to get alcohol again to deal with their tremors and shakes and feeling sick. So in an attempt to support someone in that with the best of intentions, they started to provide these people with alcohol. And then it grew into what we now have is across Canada managed alcohol programs. So we're gonna get into the details of that, why that could be working in some cases, and for me personally, not a good idea. Overall, I think there may be a couple of bridges where it could be possibly the right thing to do, but we'll get into it. Okay. So, but first of all, let's kind of define what a managed alcohol program is. So, here where I am in St. John's, Newfoundland, the St. John's Status of Women Council, they provide a managed alcohol program. And so it says specifically a first for Newfoundland and Labrador. It's a program focused on harm reduction for women and gender diverse people who drink. So they go on to say that our work and research have shown us that if someone is being harmed by their alcohol use, abstinence, not drinking at all, is not always the answer and not always possible. So drinking alcohol is socially acceptable, and that can sometimes put people at risk, such as drinking non-beverage alcohol, dangerous alcohol withdrawal, or other social health and financial harms associated with drinking. So MAP, or Managed Alcohol Program, helps people make their lives safer by providing an individual with a stable supply of alcohol and any health and social support that that person may need in order to reduce the harms that they face related to alcohol use. So, what does the managed alcohol program actually do here? First of all, they provide the alcohol by delivery or pickup, a safe and stable supply of alcohol tailored to a participant's prescription. So, right now, you can avail of this program in St. John's, Newfoundland, and you can have alcohol picked up for you. If you qualify for the program, have alcohol picked up for you or dropped off, and you have a prescription. Some people, have 1, 2, 3 times a day. My first encounter was when my son Ben passed away. He passed away in a park last July. It was the saddest, most horrific thing. And there was a gentleman in the park who was very, very, very drawn in his face. He was really not well. You could tell he was using alcohol and drugs. And well, you couldn't tell. He was right in front of me. He had out in public drinking, and he was very, very proud of the fact that he was under the managed alcohol program and that he had a prescription for that program. And he was happy to tell me all about it. And I was, first of all, upset about what happened to my son, Ben, because I feel that a big part of why he died was because we live in an enabling society when it comes to drugs. And here was this guy telling me that he's getting, alcohol dropped off to him. And I think I just at that point lost faith in humanity. It was one of those like
Mm.
earth-shattering moments when I was just like, what the hell is going on in the world?
Well,
Yeah.
I got to agree that this program blows my mind, and I just feel that the alcohol and drugs separates people from their connections to their family, to their friends, and it just rips apart their um, their family bond, and it creates such chaos in their life. And so, say that their life isn't great with their family. Well, with their friends, you choose your friends. We obviously don't choose our family, but with that being said, if your life is chaotic with your friends and you're using alcohol and you're using narcotics and it still isn't getting any better, well, I mean, at what point do people, draw the line and say, well, maybe it's the alcohol or the drugs that's causing this problem, and something inside me shouldn't do these things. But if we keep on this road, like how you said, this anosognosia, it prevents people from thinking properly. And the more we're feeding them booze and the more we're feeding them drugs, at what point are they ever going to think properly if every day we're destroying their brain a little more deteriorating than the previous day? So how do they straighten out? So we're leading them down the path of a shorter lifespan, quicker death. And to me, it just seems like the stupidest programs we could ever pay for. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. And one Facebook user says, Lord have mercy, I never heard of that. Yeah, well, they have centers all across Canada now underneath this program.
Mhm.
Um, and let's see, what else do we have here? Uh, they also have, yep, methadone assisted treatment. Yep, they sure do. We have more than methadone, and we give away coke, meth, heroin, opioids, and weed. That's all happening in BC. Yep.
Mhm.
And we have, yep, exactly. So to get into the weeds of this, um, like one of the things that I think when you think about providing people with alcohol is, like you said, the perpetuation of addiction. So, providing a controlled environment for continued substance use without addressing any underlying issues of addiction can perpetuate that dependency and hinder their recovery efforts. And that's, for anybody who's in addiction, they're going to want that substance no matter what. They will do anything to get it. Severe addiction, steal for it, sell their bodies for it. Like these are the most horrific things happen in order for because people are so severely addicted, and especially with the drugs that we have out now. That so if we're providing people with more of this, like you said, with anosognosia, if their brain is hijacked and they
Mhm.
don't have capacity to make that choice, and we're continuing to feed them with that drug or that alcohol, at what point is there an exit strategy?
Exactly. So the exit strategy is preparing their funeral, in my mind, Tina, because if there no road leading to recovery, there's no path bringing them to detox, there's nothing guiding them with mental health. I mean, how are you sitting in front of a doctor drinking or drunk, okay, or high, trying to get help from a doctor when you don't even know, what they're saying? How many
Mhm.
alcoholics remember something that happened, traumatic? Well, they drank too much. Oh my God, I blacked out. Well, if you're talking to your doctor and you're working on recovery, yet you're high and you're drunk, well, I can't see that path leading to success. I mean, that's me on my sober brain. What am I thinking?
Oh my god, I die laughing at you. Yeah, exactly, right? So, there's a continued substance use, even if it's in a management setting, it's still they're still giving people a substance that is creating a physical or mental health issue, and sometimes it can also lead to, overdose, right? And transmission of all kinds of diseases and that kind of thing. That's still going to happen when people are, they're harm reduction is saying that they're mitigating those things, but it's just as plausible that the transmission of infectious diseases and overdoses are going to happen with uh, by giving people alcohol and drugs. So it's just not adding up to me, right?
No.
Not to mention like social and economic costs, because if you're encouraging continued substance use through supplied drugs and alcohol, like that can increase social and economic costs for us as taxpayers. Like at what point did why weren't we asked or canvassed or, informed that our taxpayers were going to go to these programs? Why is it all of a sudden a huge, like, shock to everybody?
Because they kept it secret. Because if they dared release this, can you imagine bringing this out on the national news and having people know what they're doing with our tax dollars? Imagine having people sitting there saying, "Yes, well now we're supplying all the people addicted to drugs. We're going to give them free drugs, and everybody who's addicted to alcohol, well, heck, we're just going to give them some free alcohol too, and not just a little bit. We're going to supply them with it several times a day." Like,
Yeah.
people would be like, "Who hijacked the news? This is not real." Oh, it's real.
And these are real figures. Like, as of 2 years ago, over $700 million of taxpayers' money has gone into harm reduction programs. So not specifically alcohol and drugs, that's part of it, but the programs that are designed to
Mhm.
facilitate what they call harm reduction. And you and I have done a program on this before, uh,
Yep.
talking about the fact that this is not harm reduction. In many cases, it's harm production. And now we're seeing the devastation and the fallout of all of that on the west coast of Canada, where prescribed drugs are now there's a whole new drug ring around all of that, where they're taking those drugs, selling them on the streets, and they're actually ending up in our schools with the kids. So there's that as well. So essentially, they're using our taxes to infiltrate drugs into our school. Like, you have to have rocks in your head to do that.
So I got a couple of days ago, Blaine Higgs. He's the premier of New Brunswick, and he literally has a bill that he's trying to force right now. So it's bill on forced addiction treatment will include evaluation process. So he's literally he's taken a whole new approach, and he's really offbeat, this particular premier. And I got to say, I really like some of his approaches because they think, forward thinking, and he's not snowflaking these problems. And I use that term in a very loose way because if it hurts somebody, oh, you shouldn't do it. Well, you know what? Childbirth hurts, and you're here. So listen up. This is gonna hurt. Oh, it's gonna hurt like real bad. But you know what? At the end of the line, you won't have a baby in your arms, but you'll be able to maybe possibly have one or go around somebody with a baby because, hey, you got a gift of sobriety now because somebody took the initiative to love you enough to get you off of this enabling path and help you fix your life and make it right.
Yeah.
Instead of these programs being made rich, giving away taxpayer money to keep you stoned and stupid.
Well, it's so funny that you brought that up. I had no idea that you had that information there because I had just now written him an email that said that people they call it compassionate care, and it's basically helping people who are a danger to themselves. But it's unconstitutional not to help these people, and here's why: if they have anosognosia, which 40% of bipolar patients do, and 80% of schizophrenia. And we know that the majority of homeless have severe mental illness. So if they have bipolar, schizophrenia, and they have anosognosia, which means they do not have the capacity to choose.
Right.
They don't have capacity. So if they don't have capacity, it's unconstitutional not to put them into care. In the same way, it would be unconstitutional not to put someone with dementia into care. So
Yeah.
we got this completely backwards. And that's why society is roller coasting exponentially in the wrong direction when
Yep.
it comes to mental, like our numbers are climbing and climbing, is because underneath this big banner of look how sweet and compassionate and caring and wonderful we are, when we don't have any of the medical tests done to determine whether or not that person has anosognosia, whether or not they have bipolar, schizophrenia. Until people do those tests, they should never be allowed to give someone alcohol or the prognosis be that they live on the streets, because that's negligence.
It is. And I just wonder if it's cheaper for them to uh, feed them with, what they're craving than it is to give them the detox, the rehab, the mental health services. Because we know that those type of services are expensive. But you know what else is expensive? The spin-off of having all of this in the middle of our communities, having pallet shelters full of people that are addicted so that they can, be running around the streets high, drunk, helping themselves to whatever anybody has worked hard for. They don't know what's going on. They're too high and too drunk, but they like what you've got in your yard and they're taking it because, by golly, the government does nothing in place to stop them. So,
Well, if they just took all the money that we use on harm reduction and put it into recovery, rehab,
yeah,
and not only that, the other piece that's unconstitutional here is all of these shelters are drugged-in shelters, or what they call low barrier shelter. What does low
yeah,
barrier mean? It means that person can continue to use in that shelter. So what about all the people who want sobriety and can't have sobriety because all the shelters are low barrier? Like, I don't know any shelters here that I'm aware of, that I, encountered, that didn't have, drugs either on the premises or around the premises, or was in an environment where people would feel
safe.
safe and they like a center of recovery. Like when you go into AA, for example, for the most part, you're walking into an environment where everybody's straight and sober most of the time, and the whole premise and environment is calling you into sobriety. That is not what the shelters look
You're
like
not
here.
being
They
triggered everywhere you turn, and that's what they're doing. They're triggering people at every turn to have these little homes set up. It's a
Yeah, the
path to
shelter
failure.
the shelters are peddling drugs. The shelters are doing drugs on the premises. The
Mhm,
shelters are perpetuating addiction. The
mhm.
shelters are they're stealing. There's theft. There's prostitution. There's um,
There's
human
violence.
trafficking. Like, this is not an environment that's conducive to sobriety. So the people
Mhm.
so what we've done is we've excluded the people who want to get sober. And one Facebook
Mhm.
user here says, make no wonder so many people still have addictions. If the government took the money they waste on that and use it for rehab instead, this
Yeah,
country would be a much better, safer place to live.
it's true.
Precisely exactly
Mhm.
what we're saying here.
Yeah.
So, so those are some of the issues. And like, in terms of social and economic costs, encouraging continued substance use through supplied drugs and alcohol will lead to increased costs with social workers and, all of the infrastructure and all of these nonprofits. And I think you were just quoting a figure to me, like the salaries of the people in these nonprofits are
Mhm.
off the charts. Like,
Yeah.
I I don't think anyone who in a nonprofit should make any more than $60,000 a year. That would
No,
keep things real and honest. Same thing in the government. Public servants shouldn't make more than 60,000. At least the people who are there would be there not for the money but for the actual true commitment to make a difference to the people. And when you see these great big huge large salaries, people making 80, 100, 120, 150, $180,000 to run these operations that are are driven by donation and government contributions,
mhm.
that in itself is off. What we're doing is creating nonprofits to supply drugs and alcohol to people who are highly addicted, and the people that are administering it are making $120,000 a year. That's insane.
It is.
Insane.
Well, it just
Insane.
lets you know that they're not doing it for the charity. They're doing it for, their payroll. That's
Yeah,
what they're helping themselves, and they're destroying the community that they're, set up to help.
yeah. And then also there's that itself undermines recovery efforts because supplying drugs and alcohol will normalize substance use, making it more difficult for individuals to abstain. Like in the case of my son Ben, everybody was on cocaine and crack. And it's like so normalized. And you could walk outside the shelter and smoke dope and smoke crack. And it was like nothing to it. It was just like the normal scene. And people were obliterated out of their minds entirely.
Well, I'm sharing
So,
in the link in the comments. I've just put in there for in Cape Breton, we've got the Alley Center, which is our harm reduction, which is the managed alcohol program people, which is the harm reduction, the safe injection site people. It's showing that they have at least 3 employees making between $40,000 to $80,000. They've got at least one employee making between $80,000 to $120,000. They've got 7 employees making up to $40,000, and this is a lot of money for a place that's getting government funding to destroy a community, so it's
mhm.
alarming. It's absolutely alarming that this charity is, charity starts at home. Oh boy, it really does, in their home.
Yeah, and make no wonder there's so many people standing up for harm reduction. Like Guardians of Recovery is all volunteers, so it's authentic. Other than
Mhm.
those who are actually in the fundraising efforts. So, and even then, there's no person making large amounts of money like this, or you know. I think that, not that I don't think people should get paid in positions. I just think it should all be capped at 60 grand for the highest leadership position.
It
And
should be.
that way we would have an authentic structure of, you know, of these organizations. Yeah.
People actually in it for caring and not in it for, carrots,
Yeah.
right? And that makes
Exactly.
all the difference in the world in a charity, because if you only began or went to start the charity to see how much money you can get from the government, well, right off the bat, that makes me very skeptical. Is this charity helping themselves, or are they actually helping the community? Because in the
Yeah.
case here at the Alley Center, they're certainly destroying our community, and they are certainly helping themselves, because the program is growing. Every year you look at the statistics, and I, again, shared the link in there. Their staff is growing. So as the problem grows, they tell the public that they are helping, but what they're doing is they're helping the addicted population grow, which helps their staff numbers grow. And in what uh, earth sideways view does that help anybody but their program grow? When it's, if you're making the addiction population grow, then I feel like your program is a complete fail. This is to
Yeah.
help the community. You don't help the community by turning everybody that you get your hands on into addicts.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I had it my way, if someone came into my establishment and they had alcohol addiction, and I knew that, they needed a place to stay, and I had a bed there for an alcoholic, well, to me, it would have to be architected where all roads lead to recovery.
Yes.
So, if that person wanted to stay and stay the night, and then the next day they got up with shakes and withdrawals, the next door that they opened would be, here you go. Here's the recovery center with drug managed 7-day detox that is going to help you get through this so you don't have to deal with this ever again. And we're going
Mhm.
to put you through that detox so that you have the capacity in 7 days not to get up every morning and feel so sick that you have to drink yourself into oblivion. We have medication that's going to help you with those withdrawals. You're going to be in a safe place with people who can
Mhm.
help you detox. We're going to manage this effectively so you don't harm yourself as you come off this. And we're
Mhm.
providing you with fully staffed professionals who know how to get you through this process without harming yourself. To me, anything else is, harmful.
It's destructive.
Yeah, yeah,
It is, because you're destroying that person's chance of ever becoming sober. If we're going to enable and we're going to reward people for their bad behaviors, and let's face it, addiction and alcoholism, they call it a disease, but it's a bad behavior as well. All right, because you're alienated yourself from your family in a lot of cases. You've alienated yourself from your friends, from your job, and you've lost all the connections to make you part of the community. Well, if we keep supplying you in all these factors that have removed you from everything that made your life normal, how will that ever fix you? Especially
yeah.
when everything you're doing it, your brain cells are dying. Like, I'm not a doctor, but I mean, this is just common sense.
It's interesting to me that every single reason for harm reduction is actually the opposite. So for the public. So say for example, we're stopping someone from in underneath harm reduction umbrella. Well, we're making it safe for that person to use right now so they don't whatever harm themselves, overdose or whatever. Great. Sounds perfect in the short term. However, they continue to do it over and over again. That person continues to get more and more brain damage because you can't sit there and say that more use doesn't equal more brain incapacity. We know that to be true. So therefore, they're contributing to, a brain being more and more hijacked or
Yep.
perpetuate that. And then what about the harms to the community? What about the random attacks? What about the, break-ins to all of the stores and shops and the cars that the police can't even get to? I mean, I had a call yesterday from someone who was waiting 3 days for a theft and assault with people on drugs, like
Mm.
a theft of her vehicle and assault to herself. And the police couldn't even get to it because this is so out of control.
Wow. And then we have another point. If they're putting these little pallet shelters in communities, well, did children stop learning what they see and learning what they live? Does that not apply anymore? Or is it just like now the children are not vulnerable. Now we've turned the adults into children. And because we've turned the adults into children and they're no longer capable of making their own decisions, they're now the vulnerable because these brainwashers said so. No, just because they said so, children are still susceptible to what they see. So are they breeding the next generation of their, the people coming through their doors?
You know what? It's a really powerful point, and I think it is breeding a culture. We're already in
Hmm.
the effect of a culture of enabling. We are sitting in the direct impact of a culture of enabling, and what it's done is wiped out a whole generation of our youth, especially males. I think 72% are
Hmm.
young men, and
Even higher in individual.
yeah, now the number one cause of death in our youth and the number one cause of death in our country. You know,
Overdose.
this
It's
this
crazy.
this has escalated to the point where only enabling could have got us there.
It's
So,
100%.
and underneath the umbrella of compassion and being a do-gooder and doing all these great things for people in the short term, the long-term ramifications of all of that, look what it's done. Hey, I'm going to buy your crack pipe for you today. I'm going to provide you with a clean needle today. They all sound like great things in the short term, but all you have to do is look at where we are right now and work back from that. And the result of where we are speaks volumes about what we have put in place to get us here. And someone has to take responsibility for that. And
It's
nobody
true.
is. Like when
And
it comes to public safety, like alcohol managed programs propose risks to public safety if measures are not put in place to prevent potential harm, such
mhm,
as like impaired driving, violent behavior, as I said, thefts and, break and enters, needles all over. You guys have programs where you're picking up needles close to schools and stuff like that.
mhm,
Like that is not harm reduction. That is community disruption.
mhm. And it's destroying the community. Right now, the community in Sackville, here in Nova Scotia, they have actually had to hire a security team so that their community would be watched because of the implementation of the pallet shelters at the Beacon House shelter. And it has literally put the community in that much danger. They are that scared for their children that they had to spend in their own pocket security. Now, this is where we're going. That's how much of a problem it is that you have to either, and what if you're a community that doesn't have the money to put together to hire security? What happens
I
then? Then
I
your
think
community
that
is,
Canadians need to stand up and sue the government for those damages, for sure. And then the other thing is like for people who
wow.
are continuing to give people alcohol, for example, under a managed setting, it still poses a health risk to that individual. So
Mhm,
show me the proof that you're not harming their liver further. Show me the proof that you're not causing more cardiovascular issues.
mhm.
Show me the proof that you're not causing more neurological damage. Show me the proof that you're not harming their brain. If you can do all of that, I'm going to tick the box for you to continue giving them alcohol. But if you can't,
Mhm.
then you have no right. You're doing harm to that person and perpetuating an addiction that could otherwise be diverted to recovery.
Exactly. So I want to go back to Blaine Higgs here, or the New Brunswick Premier. I really like his forced addiction treatment because it puts a new spin on that. What was that show that we used to watch? That was Intervention.
Intervention.
Yeah.
Intervention.
And I don't know about you, but I actually love that show because that show was tough love. And that is what we need back in society. Where there's dystopia, utopia. We're in snowflakeopia, okay? And this
Mhm.
snowflakeopia needs to stop because all it's doing is it's breeding uh such a generation that we're going to be the zombie apocalypse if this keeps up. Nobody is going to be able to think straight. Nobody is going to want to work hard to have themselves, in their home or to get by. Why would we want to? Life's so hard now with the price of everything. Let's just all go and decide to become addicts or alcoholics, get our free pallet from the province. They're going to supply you with 2 meals a day. They're going to give you your drugs. They're going to give you your alcohol, your own doctor. You're going to get transportation passes. Why would we want to struggle? We don't have to struggle no more. We can go and live the high life, so to speak. It's sickening.
Yeah. Everybody needs a sense of purpose. Everybody needs a sense of, contribution. Everybody needs a sense. These are basic human Maslow hierarchy of needs. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're trying, people comments here. Now they're trying to take people out with alcohol delivery. Like, I really wish I had someone from those programs on the show right now to discuss this with us. I did invite the manager of that program, and she's on vacation right now. So hopefully we'll be able to get her on the show and
Yep.
see how this is justified. But for me, I just don't see it. I hear you, Tina Olivero. Oh, yeah, that was a good show. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
purpose on
And,
it. So,
and
but some of these people, Janet, some of these regions are starting to wake up to this, right?
they are.
Like that premier, which is really great to be able to have what they call compassionate care for people who don't have capacity, that are a danger to themselves. Couldn't agree more with that. The town of Happy Valley Goose Bay is pushing back on low barrier shelters in public consultations for the new health and housing supportive services hub the government wants to build. They have admitted that is not working. People are pushing back and saying we are not having that model in our community. It's simply not going to happen. So first of all, the government had no right not to inform the public about all of these things. It had no right to take taxpayers' money and spend it on things which perpetuate and enable addiction. And it has no right to put communities in such drastic, unsafe situations when you're
Mm-hmm.
putting all of those people who are drunk and stoned in one place
Mm-hmm.
and don't have the supports in place to be able to manage people with severe mental health issues, and adding drugs and alcohol on top of that. So this person says this situation then caused people addicted who want help to not seek it because they are afraid of those drug dealers enticing them. That's
Mm-hmm.
precisely true as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it also takes people who are mentally unwell and vulnerable and turns them into drug mules, which is, that makes me so mad. Thank you,
Yep.
Janet and Olivero. Yeah.
Well, it compromises anybody who is struggling to become sober. So if you are a recovering addict or a recovering alcoholic, the very last thing, I gave up cigarettes, and I'll tell you, I gave them up February 5th, 2001, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was that. Look, I smoked my face off. I loved smoking cigarettes, and nicotine was super hard to come off of. They say it's just
Yeah.
as hard as any narcotic out there to come off of.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, it was hard. After about 20 times, I finally come off of it. The point of it is if I'm around at that time, not now, I can't stand the smell of it to be around cigarettes, but in my first year of when I come off of the cigarettes, anybody smoking a cigarette, I wanted that cigarette. It took
Mhm.
every ounce of willpower inside me. But what if you're having an off day and you don't have any willpower? Boof, you are back off your wagon and you're doing what you fought so hard for yourself to achieve. And now you're back to ground zero again. You're back into that same, wheel that you tried to get out of. So they're creating it so bloody hard for people to stay on the right road. And it's not
Yeah,
right.
and so easy to stay on the addicted road. And then once you give people alcohol and drugs, they're just walking around outside with their booze in their hands and nothing to it. At what point
Mhm.
was it okay for us to be drinking in public? When did that happen?
Well, if you or I were drinking in public, we'd sure be hauled off to jail. I
Yeah.
can tell you that.
But these
Mhm.
people are sitting on street corners and,
Yep.
last summer I saw 3 people shooting up on the streets, like, just sitting on the street on the corner, on the Marchant Road, 2 people shooting up, cop around the corner. I knocked on the police car window. I said, "There's 2 people shooting up over there right in front of you." And I'm holding the police accountable. And then, walking people downtown in Ben's Park, with open whatever, beer or any kind of alcohol, and being destructive. Like, I
But these
just I
programs
don't.
these programs are forcing the police to leave them be because they're vulnerable. Okay, they're sick. They don't know any better, and yet they are sick, they're vulnerable, and don't know any better. So let's let them loose in the public, getting high as a kite and drunk as a skunk, because they don't know any better. The last thing we need in the public, in the community, and around everybody, showing our kids bad influences, is people that don't know any better. How about this? We know better, and they need treatment. That's what we know. So these people getting paid to convince people that the ones that don't know any better, leave them be. No, fire them all, send that money to treatment, rehab, detox, mental health, and just end all these money sucking, tax wasting dollars.
Like, the people that are approving all of these budgets, the people that are, like, giving all of this the green light, that's the
Mhm.
part I question. Like,
Yep.
I wonder who's getting paid off.
Mhm.
What's the rationale? Who's looking the other way?
Mhm.
What's happening that this is the situation that is the fallout for all of us to deal with, basically.
Yeah.
And, we're losing our kids. I lost my son as a direct result of an enabling drug
Mhm.
den shelters that had no place to diagnose him with
Mhm.
bipolar, anosognosia, no care. In fact, quite the opposite. The privacy law made sure that I and no workers intervened.
Mhm.
And
Well,
so
like.
I'm 100% with um, that minister, and I think that
Mhm.
he should be commended, and
I
all the
do
other
too.
ministers should follow suit.
Yep. He is setting example to all the other premiers in Canada that it's okay to speak out against
Yeah,
these brainwashers are trying to convince us that what we know is wrong. They're trying to make us feel like we're crazy, we're wrong, and what they're saying is right. No,
yeah,
we've seen what you've done, what your choices have created, and we want it to stop. I've
yeah,
also have lost my only brother, also died to a fentanyl overdose. So we both have the common passion of why we want this to stop. We love our family members. We don't want to have anybody else go through what we went through with this. Just, I can't even put words to it. It's just so mind blowing what is being done. And it's happening at such an exponential rate of people dying. Everyone's loved ones around us are such, they're anybody could become addicted because of these measures that are in place right now. It's
yeah.
not a society for people who want to be sober anymore.
Exactly. One person here says, "I guarantee mothers are out there are not happy. We need MAD, but we need Mothers Against Safe Dispense Centers, MAS."
Oh,
Yeah,
that I love. I love
yeah,
that. Yeah, we do, babes.
we do. I'm sorry,
Thank you,
Ms.
Helen.
Janet. Yeah.
Thank you, Helen.
Like, you've lost your brother, I've lost my son. We're living in the aftermath of this absolute insane crisis, and
Mhm.
still, no matter the amount of meetings I've had since Ben died, people look at me with blank faces. They're like, "Well," they listen to what I say, but they just continue on with the harm reduction model. They don't care. They do not care about what I say about that. They don't care about my experience. They're just like, "This is what we're doing. This is our handsome salary that we're getting paid to
And
ignore the fact that this
mhm,
system just killed your son." And
mhm.
I don't know, honestly, don't know how they look in the mirror each day. It is disgusting.
They've brainwashed themselves into actually thinking they're helping. I I mean, it's like telling, you're cutting off people's fingers and telling them, well, the rest of your hand is still okay. Oh, you've got 9 more fingers. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. The pain will eventually stop. I mean, I also don't understand on how they think they're helping when all we see is destruction and death.
Yeah. And Charmaine says, our government needs to go and we need some new replacements for sure.
Mhm.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Wow, love that. And yes, they don't care and it's crazy and the system is broken. Population control. That's one theory.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
it's disgusting.
So we do have a politician that Pierre Poilievre, one of his platforms that he says that one of the things that he agrees to do is he says he's going to stop all these drug supplying harm reduction programs, and he's going to stop doing this. Now, I think that that is another great thing that he's saying, and I hope to God that it's true, and that I hope to God that he gets in, because we need someone in government like that that is supportive of removing harm production programs. It needs to be
Yeah.
done.
Our basic common sense has gone out the window, or maybe it's more indicative of society. It's like the short term fix right now at the expense of a long term sustainable solution.
Wow.
I don't know how politicians sleep at night, is what one person says here.
Yeah.
And then Diane says, WTF. So basically helping them take their own lives. In
Yeah.
many cases, that's exactly
Absolutely.
what happened to my son, Ben.
Mhm.
I think it will take a member of government to see their child family member go through addiction before they will
Yeah.
actually see the full picture and understand and then make changes to help the addicted who are the victims. Well, you know what?
100%.
The premier of our province is a doctor, and I have requested over and over and over to meet with him personally about all of this. He will not stand up and meet with us, even though we've gone to Confederation Building, had a rally, done it all. And
Mm.
here he is pissed off today because he can't get a meeting with the prime minister when, yeah, well, that's exactly what we feel like. We can't get a meeting with you. This is a
Mhm.
provincial decision, provincial jurisdiction. The province is going to decide and dictate how this goes. And our
Mhm.
premier won't even show his face in front of the people to get people into
Disgrace.
detox, into rehab, and to get these situations taken care of at a level where okay, you want to have certain places where it's low barrier. Okay, even 50%. Let 50% be sober and 50% be low barrier. But don't keep
Mhm.
people out who want to get sober. Give
Right.
people shelters and homes and sober living homes, places of sobriety where they can actually recover. Like it is,
I love your spiel that you've got people doing, sending in the video petitions for your on-demand detox and rehab. I haven't done mine
yeah.
yet, but I need to. And everybody's watching this show, you got to do what she's saying. Send her a 2-minute video for on-demand rehab and detox, because it's incredible, and that's a good chain to
Yeah.
start.
Well, so many people were signing petitions, but it's very easy for a politician to look away from a signature. But if you create a video petition, they're actually only 15, 20 seconds. They say, I'm standing for on demand rehab, on
Mhm.
demand detox, my name, where I'm from, I'm a guardian of recovery. And then that's it. You put it on the wall, and we'll eventually make a big montage. A lot of the
Mhm.
politicians are not answering our letters. So we'll just, take this, make a montage of all of this, get it out there to the media, and then we'll collect all the letters that haven't been responded to. So if you have a letter, we have a letter bank. So if you sent it to your MHA, didn't get responded to, give it to us. We'll put it in the letter bank and we'll make sure that it's published 2 weeks before the election.
Yes, before the election. Now that is the key words right there, because it's for whatever reason, before elections, their ears just seem to open right up at those times, don't they? Huh?
That's right.
They're deaf as the doorknob months before the election, but within week, month before the election, all of a sudden they're listening to everybody now. So yeah, that would make a great time to present that.
Yep, no different than the maid service. Yes. Tina, same thing happening in the States.
Mhm.
So when I say stuff the States are doing, this exact same thing as here.
And
Yeah,
look at
love you,
the mess
Tina.
down there.
Love you too. Thank you for meeting Tina and Janet. Have a blessed night. Have another meeting to attend. God bless you all. Hope to see you again on Sunday, Tina Olivero. Awesome. Okay. Well, I mean, that pretty much is the conversation.
Hmm.
If you guys uh, are seeing this stuff going on, if it's happening in your community, all you can do is stand up, speak up, and share what the truth of what's happening.
Hmm.
Whether you make a video petition, whether you send in a letter, do everything that you possibly can, because there's power in numbers. Guardians of Recovery is a national organization. As a national organization, you have the power to be able to join us, speak up, and speak out. And it's through a national voice. The national voice is the one that is going to be heard. Because if we're just over here in our corner saying, without much influence, we're not going to be able to get too far. But together, we can change this thing. We can turn this boat around, and we can stop this insanity.
Exactly. And for anybody who's watching this show tonight, you are a guardian of recovery. If you are against what's going on, you need to advocate and let everybody know that you're not a person who is okay with harm reduction with these managed alcohol programs. And you will, become part of a community that is welcoming into having people's lives actually saved, and being a
Mhm.
guardian of recovery, working with Tina, helping spread the word of sobriety is the change that we need to spread across Canada. It
For
is.
sure. And here's the sentiment. I hear this every single day. It's shocking for the premier to ignore the major crisis with addiction here in our province in Newfoundland, but he's so eager to welcome others into our province and provide their needs, but continue to ignore the addiction crisis
Mhm.
in our province. This is making people angry. It's
Yeah.
making people angry about immigration. Immigration should be an amazing, beautiful thing, but it's
Yeah.
turned into something completely opposite because people are resentful that our own people are not getting help. And they're just, the premier's flying all over the world promoting Newfoundland to what? To come back to a drug crisis where
Mhm.
people are not safe, where this is our system. And they justify saying, well, it's happening, all across Canada, and we know it's going to get worse. So they just put it over there in that basket, and
Yeah.
then it's justified. Well,
No, it's not
if
justified.
that's
We need
one
to
way.
stand up.
That's
Yeah. And it's
that's one
happening
way.
everywhere.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
that is one way to create a very, very resentful group of people in your province. People
Mhm.
who spend every day working on their businesses, working at jobs, trying to make ends meet, trying to be productive citizens, and just the very, very basics of not taking care of our people with mental health and addictions, which is
Mhm.
1 in 6, if not more, in this province.
Wow.
If we can't get that straight, we're screwed. So you can forget about all the rest of it, because all it's going to take, just like when we had our parade, Santa parade, a shootout in the streets to cancel the parade. Wait till the summer hits, and we have all of these drug dealers have guns these days, and they're all playing, the mob scene, and it's super cool to be on coke and being a mobster. Wait till that all plays out in the bar scene on George Street and people get taken
Mhm.
out, and that's the end of it. That is the end of it. And that's a result of people not being busted for drugs, people not, taking this seriously at the level it needs to be, police officers not responding when people are assaulted,
Mhm.
and thefts related to drugs. Like, it's all mounting. You can feel it in the undercurrent. It's going to explode. It's going to erupt like a volcano.
And it's going to start from one side of Canada to the other. It's a very volatile subject because everybody sees it. There's no community that doesn't have an impact and an effect from this anymore. We're all part of it, and we all need to be part of the solution and stop turning our back to these programs that are brainwashing everybody, and start standing up and standing against it. Because if we don't do it, it's never going to change. It will only progressively get worse, like the case has been.
Exactly. Yeah. And one person is,
So,
people don't understand that for change, there is strength in numbers, precisely.
mhm. Now,
And
yeah, read that one.
It says, "Hello, ladies. Have you seen the news coming out of Saskatchewan? Maybe a start." And that's I haven't seen that, but I hope it's the new laws. Um,
Yeah, drop that link.
Alberta,
Go ahead.
Alberta's also doing the same thing. It's starting to integrate a compassionate care model. So if you have the link on Saskatchewan, I'd love to hear what that says.
Yeah, together we will work together, because this problem, it may be a Newfoundland problem, a Nova Scotia problem, but let's be honest, it is a Canadian problem. So even though you're in Newfoundland, Tina, I'm in Nova Scotia, we've got people watching these shows that you and I are doing from coast to coast. And we even had an American viewer on here tonight talking about how it's a North American problem. It's really a world problem, but we've let it
Yeah.
grow to that scale
Mhm.
because we've not addressed it the way we're doing now. We're
Yeah.
aggressively starting this, hope, this path of recovery, sobriety, and rehab, detox, mental health. And if we don't keep working on it, it's like carving a statue. You don't just work on it one day and it's done. It's a
Mhm.
progress. It's over time, and it's going to take time to have more people get on the same path and be part of the Guardians of Recovery.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, it says they are no longer supplying safe injection supplies, a rapid detox, rapid rehab.
I love it.
Nice.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
that's the change we wanna see right there.
The
That
follow-up show.
that make that makes so much sense. It's like, makes so ma all roads need to lead to detox and rehab no matter how it goes. So, yeah. Whew, with that said, we've been on here for an hour now chatting away.
Yeah.
That's last comment. So, folks, keep tuning in to these shows, Guardians of Recovery. We are talking about what the solutions are for mental health and addictions. And we're also going to start branching out into some, you know, tools and skill sets and mind management and self awareness and all the tools that we all need in order to battle mental health and addiction issues, and also to be empowered at within our own lives to be able to take this on and change the future, because the future is whatever we decide it's going to be. We get what we tolerate. Facebook user says, "It's a sad world we live in here in Newfoundland, and it's really scary to think about our children and grandchildren growing up in this drug addicted province." You would never say that by the Newfoundland Labrador ads that we see all across Canada, but that is the absolute truth right there. Our kids are dying. We had our record number of 11 overdoses in February. I don't know what the number was in March, but 11 overdose deaths, come on, in 1 month in size of Newfoundland and Labrador. Like, what the hell's going on?
Hmm.
So, and
Exactly.
Janet says, "Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Really great having this conversation. Thanks for telling the truth, being real." Janet, love, love, love
Always a
any
pleasure.
love
Have
doing
a
a
great
show
night,
with you.
everyone.
It's always interesting. Okay, take care,
All
everyone.
right, guys,
Have a
have a
good
great night.
have a good night.